Welcome back to the Joe Citizen Show. This is Roger Homefield, and I am Joe Citizen, but, you know, so are you, and so are you. We're going to need every Joe Citizen out there if we're going to get America back up on her feet again. You know, I just want you to know, everything's going to be okay, really. It really is. As far as Trump, the conviction will definitely be reversed on appeal, if not thrown out even sooner, regarding this juror's misconduct that Judge Merchan himself posted. So the bottom line is that eventually Trump will no longer be a, quote, convicted felon. But he could still become a political prisoner pending sentencing. They want Trump to go to jail for a crime no one can identify. And without a unanimous 12-juror vote, he'll be joining a growing list of political prisoners like Pete Navarro. Steve Bannon will be in prison any moment now. The January Sixers, the Proud Boys, and there are others. Do we want retribution? No. Just accountability. Accountability will be pretty harsh into itself. You know, Hunter Biden is a distraction. He's a distraction from the blockbuster information that's on the laptop. Whistleblower Tony Bobolinsky, a Navy lieutenant who served with honors, handed his cell phones to the FBI. I was watching it live when this whistleblower stepped forward. I was just mesmerized. He had every detail. He had everything down to a T. And he says that on his cell phones, it implicates Joe Biden as, quote, the big guy getting 10% and the centerpiece of an influence peddling scheme with our adversaries like China. Bobolinsky says the laptop from hell, will corroborate the evidence on the cell phones. You know, the FBI held on to the laptop for over a year, and it was right during impeachment number one. Ironically, the info on the laptop would have exonerated Trump. He was impeached for properly asking Zelensky to look into corruption surrounding Burisma that we now all know existed. Let's not forget John Brennan and the 51 intelligence agents that signed a letter saying the laptop was Russian disinformation when they knew it wasn't. Now, last show, we instituted a basket of sewage as our form of basket of deplorables. And there's a few floating around in there already, like Schumer. But, you know, I think we need to drop John Brennan and his 51 intelligence agents who were not very loyal to this country for what they did. Let's just plop them in there. They made a pretty big splash. I mean, 51 is quite a bit. Netanyahu is coming July 24th to speak to a joint session of Congress, meaning the House and the Senate. Bernie Sanders is talking about boycotting Netanyahu. Bernie is a multimillionaire, socialist, communist, self-loathing Jew who says he will turn his back on a great leader like Netanyahu. Well, Bernie, let's just drop you down to that little basket. You can swim around in there, and you know a towel won't do you any good. It'll just kind of move things around. And anyway, Bernie, have a nice day down there. Now, Netanyahu has been the Israeli leader on and off in one capacity or another, whether it's prime minister or not, for over 35 years. 35 years of defending a country from an existential threat every day. The Israeli Defense Forces rescued 4 hostages. Breath of fresh air to get some good news for a change. President Biden no longer even mentions the American hostages, nonetheless working on any rescue plans. He's used to leaving people behind. I mean, do you remember when we left Afghanistan? Biden actually said that about 10% of the Americans would be left behind. But there was never any follow-up to help us get them back, to help them get out. Never has American lives and citizenship been so devalued. So are we going Are we going to rescue the hostages and get the Nazis in Rafah? Nah. Biden would much rather bludgeon Israel into surrender than letting her defeat Hamas. So I've previously stated that Obama single-handedly resurrected the Muslim Brotherhood and that he was the only man in the world who could have done so. And now Biden is saving Hamas, and now he's the only man in the world who can do that. So again, it's worth repeating. Obama single-handedly resurrected the Muslim Brotherhood and was the only man in the world who could have done so. No one has ever refuted this statement because they can't. And now Biden is saving Hamas. He's the only man in the world who can do so, and probably the only one who would want to, because the Muslim countries don't want Hamas either. You know, I thought we were supposed to be getting rid of terrorists, not saving them. But he covers their ass because he's desperate for those Muslim votes in Michigan, Dearborn, Michigan. But even worse, we mentioned this last show, the fact that our government, White House, and advisors are infiltrated by the Muslim Brotherhood up the yang, and his policies are now being shaped by the enemies that Obama, Biden have brought in among us. For example, let's go back to 2012. Admiral James Lyons, former commander-in-chief for the United States Pacific Fleet, he stated that under the leadership of Barack Obama, the Muslim Brotherhood have infiltrated all of the national security agencies of the United States. That was back in 2012, so they've had some time to work on that. Multiply their numbers. Furthermore, the admiral said that Obama was deliberately, unilaterally disarming the military. Gee, why would Obama Biden want to do that? That's why we need to bring back Trump. We have no border, not even a gate. We all get censored by the deep state. We just can't stomach another mandate. That's why we need to bring back Trump. Crime is so bad now, we just want to hurl. An athlete can say he'll compete as a girl. Kamala's cackle makes your hair curl. That's why we need to bring back Trump. We all want free elections that are fair, but they don't care. They're woke. What a joke. Hey, California, you're now a real dump. That's why we need to bring back Trump. Stopping the pipeline is not a good bet. Defunding cops was the dumbest thing yet. Afghanistan, well, how dumb can you get? That's why we need to bring back Trump. We want our oil independence back again. For sure there would have been real peace in Mideast. We tried to warn ya, Joe Biden's a chump. That's why we need to. That's why we have to. That's why we've got to bring back Trump. Well, I hope you like that. And, of course, that was our parody on the Ladies Who Tramp lyrics by Sandy Koplowitz. You know, I was really shocked on TV the other night, which happens often these days. Biden was talking, and he was talking about how there might be some meddling in the next election. He was going on about China, and he says there is evidence that meddling is going on. Listen to this, quote, Biden says, everybody, well, he's right about everybody, but he says everybody All the bad guys are rooting for Trump, man. Not a joke. Not a joke. He convinced me on the man part. Talk about being presidential, you know. So, nonetheless, he said, everybody, all the bad guys are rooting for Trump, man. Not a joke. Well, you know, Joe, thanks so much for bringing this up. I really appreciate that you brought up exactly who would be rooting for who, because here's a little list I put together on folks that will be rooting for you, Scranton Joe. How about China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, the United Nations, the European Union, the Obamagate actors, the coup actors, communists, socialists, Marxists, anarchists, atheists, anti-Christians, J Street, BDS organizations, Antifa, BLM, MS-13, sex traffickers, drug cartels, anti-Israel, pro-Palestinians, the Muslim Brotherhood, CARE, Students for Justice Palestine, Hamas, Hezbollah, foreign jihadists, domestic jihadists, George Soros, the TV media, social media, fake news, the Bidens, the Clintons, Comey, Chris Wray, Brennan and his CIA and his 51 corrupt intelligence cohorts, Susan Rice, Samantha Powers, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, Leon Panetta, Raman. Look, the list could go on and on and on, but basically it's all and any individuals or entities that really want to see the end of the American dream. Sadly, this is official. It's coming out in dribs and drabs. You don't hear about it on the news. You don't hear about it in the headlines about ivermectin, that we were lied to. And this was a whopper because there was a big price to pay, maybe with your life. And a lot of people did. The Biden administration paid CVS and Walgreens. This is the first time we came out with this information about that. They paid the CVS and Walgreens billions of dollars to reject life-saving, that's right, life-saving ivermectin prescriptions so that they could just push their vaccines. And the bottom line with this is that Biden blocked us from taking inexpensive, life-saving drugs. Biden blocked us from taking safe, inexpensive, life-saving drugs. The title of Dr. Corey's book says it well. The War on Ivermectin, the medicine that saved millions and could have ended the pandemic. And it could have ended the pandemic if everyone had been truthful about it, because if they had been truthful about it, they would have told everyone to have a supply. You know, we had filmmaker Jeff Hayes on a couple of shows ago, and he produced the movie The Real Anthony Fauci. He was a guest on the show, and he revealed to us that if ivermectin was exposed to the public and the public saw that it was an effective therapeutic or cure, that Big Pharma would have lost hundreds of billions of dollars by being denied the use of the Emergency Use Authorization, or EUA. If they knew about ivermectin, Big Pharma could not have used that emergency use authorization. So the FDA and the media smeared ivermectin as a horse dewormer. Everybody laughed, and they attacked anyone who said that ivermectin was a cheap, safe, and effective drug. They even tried to trash and destroy Dr. Harvey Risch, the chief epidemiologist at Yale University. So instead of saving us with ivermectin, we were sent to the hospitals to die on the ventilator. Now, what they could have done was told everybody the value of ivermectin as both a preventative and a therapeutic cure. Everyone could have had some on hand. It costs pennies. And if you felt the symptom, you could take the drug. But you didn't have to wait to take a test to see if you had COVID-19. If you started getting symptoms, you just would take the drug and it would knock it out. But that was too simple. No, we had to close the schools, close the churches, screw up kids' lives for years, screw up our economy, put us into inflation. It wasn't just the oil. It was the trillions we spent on this. It didn't even have to happen. So instead of saving us with ivermectin, we were sent to the hospitals to die on ventilators. Ventilators did jack squat as far as saving people. The hospitals vehemently refused to give patients ivermectin, even when prescribed by their personal doctors. They just blew it off. They denied them the right to try something that would, in fact, have saved their lives. Now, Trump, if you recall, gave people, quote, the right to try experimental drugs, if that was their only hope. But Biden, on the other hand, denied them the use of a proven safe drug that had been around for a long time. If we weren't all out of our minds now with so many scandals swirling around us, think of what a scandal this into itself would normally be. Biden repeatedly accused Trump of essentially killing everyone that died from COVID, while Biden is the one who actually is guilty because he's the one that was hiding ivermectin, keeping it a secret, and then making it very, very hard to get. You know, when you add this to Biden's other misadventures, we get Biden's 6 trails of death. That's right, Biden's 6 trails of death. Number one, how many have died from COVID because Biden's administration refused to let them have therapeutics? Think of how nasty that is. They hid the fact that it worked. They prevented you from getting it. And we all know people that died because of that. Number two, how many died in Afghanistan because of the way we left, and how many are continuing to die and be tortured, left to the Taliban? Number three, how many have died on both sides of this awful, preventable Russian invasion of Ukraine? This never would have happened if Trump was in office. None of the stuff I'm mentioning would have happened if Trump had stayed in office. How many have died on both sides of Biden's non-existent border? And 5, how many have died from fentanyl? 6, how many have died and how many will die still because Biden stalled Trump's Abraham Accords that the world said was impossible to accomplish? Instead, what we have now is war, and Biden demands Israel to surrender. The winner should surrender. Well, it's Israel. Biden always said that a ceasefire is a victory for Hamas, and that is exactly what he is demanding now. You know, this will be seen by all of Islam as the West submitting, and will hasten. It'll only hasten their attacks here. And I'm going to interrupt myself right now for a moment because, look, 9/11 was a long time ago, and most Americans, the vast majority, learned very, very little about jihad or anything like that because we were basically told we didn't need to. George Bush, hold the imams arm in arm. Everything is good here. Okay. Oh, no, they're good Americans. Everybody's loyal. It was just a few crazy people that perverted Islam. And just you all go home now. And that's just not the case. I want you to be on the lookout. Get on that mailing list so I can let you know when it's going to be. But we're going to have Dave Gobbets as a regular guest. We're going to do an expansive series with Dave Gobbets. Dave Gobbets is the author of Muslim Mafia. He was the first federal agent in Iraq. He was the top agent of the OSI. You've got the CIA, that's local in America. And the FBI, they can only arrest in America. The OSI can go anywhere in the world, investigate anything in the world, and have arresting powers. He interrogated God knows how many terrorists. He's been in anti-terrorism for 45 years. And I say to you, I don't think there's anyone that is more of an expert on terrorism and terrorists and terror organizations and what their motives are and their modus operandi than David Gobbets. That's Gaubatz. Watch for it. We're going to have him here. Much of what I have learned about jihad and Islam is from David Gobbets. So I'm going to bring you the horse's mouth directly. You know, with Biden's open hostility to Israel, here's the thing, folks. If Biden really had a problem with the way Israel was doing this or that, and they're our best ally, don't you think he would have spoken to them privately? But with Biden's open hostility to Israel, it signaled an open season on Israel. Thus, the rambunctious ICC was trying to get arrest warrants for both the leaders of Hamas and Israel, meaning Netanyahu. What a freaking outrage. Insinuating a moral equivalence is despicable. The ICC, they need to go for a swim. Where's that basket of sewage over here? Drop them in there. We ought to cover the darn thing. There is no moral equivalence between Israel's most benevolent surgical military in history versus rapists, baby burners, and savages that will skin you alive. And Germany, of all countries, jumps right in to say that they would honor the arrest warrant? You're kidding me, right? And they had been doing so well with Israel over the years. To show you how bizarre this is, in 2008, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said to Israel's parliament that her country's reason for being, Angela Merkel said that Germany's reason for being is its pledge to the existence of Israel and to ensure that Iran's regime does not build a nuclear weapon. Well, she was spot on about that. But now we're letting Iran get the bomb. We're letting them have it. We're not only letting them have it, we're making sure they get it. Biden is telling the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and our allies in Europe, France, and England to back off of Iran. Back off? Biden is pressuring allies in Europe not to censure Iran over its nuke program? The whole point of the IAEA is to prevent Iran from getting the nuke. Now we're helping them get the nuke?
He was framed by Hillary, FBI, and NBC. A deplorable hoax, he was right all along. He was right about the wall. Open borders, fentanyl. Everybody walking across without a wall. Stranded in Afghanistan, left to face the Taliban. Never have we left our people behind. No, no. Don't tell us what to say. Don't tell us what not to say. Freedom of speech is the American way. So keep your hands off Christmas, the flag and our traditions. He was right about that. He was right all along. You may not want to hear it. Some of you may fear it. Trump always ended up right. He was right all along. You may not want to hear it. Some of you may fear it. Trump always ended up right. He was right all along.
Well, you know, it's true. Think about it. He was right all along. Some people don't want to hear it. They may fear it, but Trump always ended up right all along. We could spend a whole show going down the list. And can't do that now. You know, I was reading an article, it turned out to be in the Boston Globe, that a pro-Palestinian group has put together an anti-Semitic mapping project. A Jew mapping project seen as an incitement to violence and the Jewish hit list. And then further to my surprise, I realized that this article I was reading was from 2022. I never heard of Jew mapping in America. Did you? But, you know, instead of hearing about this, We learn that FBI Director Christopher Wray is busy meeting with Hamas supporters, and the Department of Justice is too busy targeting the group Moms for Liberty. You know, Daniel Green is a great writer from Front Page magazine. He writes that the Islamic pro-terror groups have been privately meeting with top federal and state law enforcement officials to demand that they lock up Jewish political opponents. Does something about that sound familiar? The Muslim Public Affairs Council, or MPAC, has been caught meeting with Attorney General Merrick Garland and FBI's Christopher Wray to also discuss targeting Jews. But rather than expelling or arresting terrorist supporters, the FBI was meeting with them. MPAC issued policy papers calling for the removal of Hamas and Hezbollah from the list of terror groups. Oh, sure, after October 7, sure, let's just take Hamas off the terror list. They demand, Islam says this, Islam says, and we say, how high? How high should we jump? MPAC claimed that Muslims were under attack by Jewish terrorists and the Proud Boys, and demanded the FBI do something about it. The demand, it should have ended the meeting, but the Department of Justice and the FBI took it seriously. The DOJ and the FBI have gone from fighting Islamic terrorists to taking orders from them. And this really has been going on for quite a while, with the removal of the words Islamic terror from counter-terror manuals. This insanity has to stop at some point, or we truly will completely lose the country. You know, Biden took the torch. Let me continue on this then. Biden took the torch from Obama. He further infiltrated America with the Muslim Brotherhood. Here, in his own words, from Biden, here in Biden's own words, my administration will look like America. Muslim Americans serving at every level. This is kind of like a DEI for Muslim. My administrations will look like America. Muslims Americans serving at every level. The only problem is the Muslims that Obama, Biden have put in positions of power have their own agendas, such as dumping Israel for Iran. And although there's so many doubting Thomases that just don't get it, that they don't care how long it takes, their ultimate goal is an Islamic Republic of the United States. And really, it doesn't end there. The caliphate requires a one world ummah. But we'll let David Gobbets tell you more about that. So, Justin Trudeau, young Justin, he's horrified. He's horrified by Israel's attack in Rafah, and he pledges more visas for Gazans. This guy is even dumber than Biden. Justin, good luck with that. Just make sure you keep them up there and they don't start wandering around down here trying to figure out where the palm trees are. You know, everybody used to call everybody a Nazi. But now that we have actual bona fide Nazis holed up in Rafah, no one wants to say the word Nazi anymore. You know, the world doesn't want to say Islamo-Nazi now because, well, heck, that would justify going into Rafah. The Muslim Brotherhood never severed their ties, the World War II alliance with Hitler and the Nazis. Lastly, regarding who we are, we always heard a lot about that. The Kansas City kicker, Harrison Butker, scored big for America. He spoke at graduation for the Catholic Benedictine College in Kansas. The main thing I took out of it was his encouragement of the graduating women, and it was mostly women, to be mothers and homemakers. And like, look, like most people, I agreed with some of the things he said, but not all. It's like that with most people on most things. But all hell broke loose and 100,000 petitioners tried to get him fired. How vindictive. They even had him doxxed. This is how nasty this one-sided left-wing mob is. It's their way or we destroy you. The NFL made a statement, quote, his views are not those of the NFL as an organization. The NFL is steadfast in our commitment to inclusion, which only makes our league stronger. Hey, NFL, who asked you? Why are you making any statement? You're not a political organization, are you? He was never speaking as an NFL representative. Well, the Pride organizations accused him of lacking standards of respect, inclusion, and diversity. But shouldn't respect, inclusion, and diversity also be applied to Harrison Butker and his beliefs and opinions too? Ever since Trump came down the escalator 9 years ago to announce his candidacy, the anti-American left launched a nonstop, very nasty, malicious string of hoaxes. We need Trump. We need term limits. We need one-day voting. We need zero tolerance of terror. We need zero tolerance of lawless mobs. We need to end public school child abuse. We need to tell the left to shut up and stop bullying everybody. Don't forget who we know who we are, the biggest-hearted, most generous, God-loving country ever. No parent wants to live to see his child die. No patriot ever wants to live to see America die. We can never, never, ever allow that to happen. This is the Joe Citizen Show. I'm Roger Homefield. Thank you for being with us.
Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long. See you in November at the polls where we are gonna have our say. Better see you in November. It's our chance to throw these fools away. Counting the days till we're rid of you. Counting the hours and the minutes too. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long. Bye-bye, so long, farewell.